Hello and welcome back to New Wave Hockey. I'm your host, Link Dansevich, and today we will be starting a brand new series on the channel. That's right, every single week I will be picking a new draft-eligible prospect that I'm going to highlight as the prospect of the week and give you a subsequent scouting report on that player in an effort to kind of inform more people about the upcoming prospects in the NHL draft. And this week's prospect of the week is Matthew Schaefer from Erie. I've been waiting to talk about this guy for a while. In my last video, I felt kind of bad because he really has thrust himself in and around the first overall pick conversation. My own bias is kind of saying, oh, he's not going to go first overall, but I did want to make a video about him, and that's what we're doing today. I will be going into an in-depth scouting report about Matthew Schaefer, his tendencies as a player, and the 5 traits that I think make him a really solid prospect. So without further ado, let's get into Matthew Schaefer, the person, and then we'll talk about Matthew Schaefer, the prospect. So Matthew Schaefer hails from Hamilton, Ontario, and he is one of the youngest players in the entire draft class. He will not turn 18 until September 5th, 2025. Yeah, he just turned 17 back in September. It's kind of incredible, but what's even more incredible is just to see how many times that he's been selected as a captain despite being so young in his own age group. At the U17 World Hockey Challenge, he was the captain of the Canada White team. He is an alternate captain for Erie, and he's also just been named a alternate captain for the CHL versus NTDP challenge that's going to happen between Canada and the United States. And it's really impressive. However, it hasn't really all been easy for Matthew Schaefer. In February of 2024, Matthew lost his mother, Jennifer, to a battle with breast cancer. It's an absolutely tragic and unimaginable loss for such a young prospect to deal with, and how he's dealt with it and how he's been such a role model and a leader in the wake of such a tragedy. It goes beyond sport. He is a tremendous human being, and I'm rooting for him so much so. He is an inspiration. I've seen what he's done for the Erie community. I have nothing but respect for the kid, and I really hope that he continues this torrid pace that he's been on. And speaking of that torrid pace, he has scored 15 points in 11 games, 11 of those being assists, 4 of those being goals. He's already broken his goal total from last year. He only had 3 goals and 14 assists for 17 points through 56 games. He's on pace to break that next game. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about why he's been on such a torrid pace as of late. What goes into his game? Let's start with the skating. I'm a really huge fan of the skating ability for Matthew Schaefer. I really don't have a lot of complaints. He generates a ridiculous amount of speed when going up ice. His north-south skating is absolutely tremendous. Watching him join the rush just gives me a euphoric burst of energy. I really love watching him support his teammates. He's just a great support defenseman, and he is an offensive defenseman in every sense of the word in that manner. I think that he could legitimately be one of the fastest players in the league one day. That's how highly I think of his skating. However, his forward mobility and edge work could use a little bit of work. In the defensive zone, he's not as fleet of foot, and I do want to see him do that to kind of get the jump on pucks. You will see he does have a little trouble with quick stops and quick turnarounds and whatnot, but again, very fast once he starts to get going. I'm being a little nitpicky with his skating. He is a really solid skater, and right now, Matthew Schaefer joins the rush better than any defenseman in his entire class. I can't wait to see how many goals he scores because of it. He's got a lot of potential. Let's moving on to his shot and his scoring ability. Usually, shot is not a place that is a strong suit for some defensemen. There were some notable exceptions with Zane Perek last year, Carter Yakimchuk, Zeev Boyum to a little bit of an extent. Matthew Schaefer is another one of those exceptions. He's got a really solid shot. For an offensive defenseman, he shoots the puck, and it's really nice. It took him 9 games this year to get to 4 goals. Last year, it took him 56 to get to 3. He launches a really mean shot from the point. It induces a ton of rebounds. He's a very smart shooter too. He shoots low and on pads, everything that you want to see as a defenseman. Even though his shooting percentage is around 8%, he's a very smart shooter. He knows what he's doing every single time. He's inducing chaos in front of the net. He gets those shots in and low, and sometimes he can just do a seeing eye shot that sneaks right past the goalie. I've been really impressed. I believe his shot really just shows the fullest extent to him being a power play quarterback on that top power play pairing that every team is looking for these days. The only backside, again, left shot, but again, who's counting? I'm not counting. The offensive ability, I'll take that whichever side that you shoot. He is a legitimate scoring threat, and the shot is only one of 2 big reasons why The stick handling is the other. It's rare to find a defenseman with such potent stick handling. Again, there was Carter Yakimchuk last year. There was Zane Parekh last year. But Matthew Schaefer is the standard bearer of that defensive group this year. His handles they're truly ridiculous. Some of the stuff that he does is just not fair. It shouldn't be what a defenseman should be able to do. One thing that I've particularly noticed is that his stick handling is close and it's not really overcomplicated. There's a particular rhythm to it, and when he breaks it, it's unexpected, and that's what catches a lot of his opponents and goalies off guard. They're not expecting him to shoot. They're not expecting him to pass. Looking at the 2 breakaway goals that he's had this year so far, he has the puck on a string, and it's really amazing to see a defenseman who's able to join the rush and have that good puck control on their stick. It's really impressive. Again, the incorporation of this skill greatly improves his passing ability, which we will talk about, and it greatly improves his ability to score from close range, something that not a lot of defensemen can do. Now, looking at his compete and defensive ability, I'm a huge stickler for compete. If your effort is not up here, I'm not going to rate you that high. Luckily, Matthew Schaefer, he gives a ton of effort. Like I said, he joins the rush better than anyone else in this entire draft class. He is such a smart defenseman in the offensive zone. He knows exactly where to be, but guess what? He fights for pucks. He fights for loose pucks like nobody I've ever seen. He loves to flip the ice. In the defensive zone, he's an absolute monster on loose pucks. However, I will have to say, I want to see more physicality from the 6'2" defenseman. I want to see more physical engagement. I want to see him, dish out more because he's been taking a lot of contact. He's a very good position defenseman. His spatial awareness is very high. He likes to block shots, which is something that you don't see from a lot of offensive defensemen. He will cut off gaps really well. But again, I just want to see more physical engagement. I want to see him be able to move a little bit better in terms of edge work. Let's move on now to the IQ and vision. It just seems like low-hanging fruit to just say that Matthew Schaefer is a high IQ player, because he is. He really is. His passing vision is beautiful. It's really tight. Him with the puck on his stick, he's a very smart player. He reminds me a lot of Zeev Buium with the quick passes that he makes. I wouldn't say that he's, as smart as Zeev Buium, that's my boy. But Matthew Schaefer is really intelligent. A lot of his zone entrances, you can see it, and he can read the play. He can read all of his teammates and where they're at, and he kind of has a sixth sense in where to pass every time he enters the zone. He loves to make unexpected passes, unexpected plays. There's this one play during a game versus Niagara. He gets tripped by the opposing player, gets right back up, and fires it over to Malcolm Spence. Score. Nobody was even expecting him to get up that quickly and fire the pass right there. Little plays like that are why Matthew Schaefer is just such an offensive dynamo, and why I really believe that he's going to maintain that top 5 status that he's carved out for himself. Overall, Matthew Schaefer has shown himself to be a fantastic defenseman early on in this draft. Defensemen often have to go above and beyond in their draft season to kind of stand out in draft discussions. I mean, there's a lot of pressure put on defensemen because they have so much more that they have to do. But Matthew Schaefer, despite his flaws, has the tools to overcome all of that. I really think you're finding a number 1 elite defenseman in Matthew Schaefer. And for me, he's solidified himself in the top 5 for now. I've already made a video about Misa Hagen's Martone, but I wanted to make this individual video about Matthew Schaefer because he's in a class of his own when it comes to defensemen in this class, and I could even see him getting taken 2nd overall or 3rd overall, maybe 1st, but we'll see. Schaefer really has the sky as the limit, and we will see what he does throughout the rest of the year because we are only through a quarter of this season in the OHL. I'm a really big fan of Schaefer. I'm a huge fan of him off the ice. I'm a huge fan of him on the ice. I want nothing but the best for him, and I hope that the rest of this year is going to be great. I hope you enjoyed this scouting report of Matthew Schaefer. I hope you liked him as much as I do. I really went out on a limb here and wanted to try something new for you guys and wanted to see how you guys would react to a weekly upload of a new draft eligible prospect and just kind of like informing you about the prospects that are coming up in this draft. If you liked it, please, of course, drop a like, maybe even subscribe, maybe even hit the notification bell so you can get notified for all of my videos and whatnot. Definitely check me out on Twitter, follow me at LinkDanceSavage, or hey, take a look at my website too, at New Wave Hockey. I post an article for every single video that I make. They're essentially my scripts, and they go into more detail than I ever could in a video, and I would really encourage you to check it out. For now, I'm LinkDanceSavage, signing off for New Wave Hockey.